Hello, this is my first ever devlog and I'm making a 2D platformer. Okay, now I know what you're thinking, the world doesn't really need another 2D platformer, but I don't care. Well, the genre and the mechanics are not set in stone, but who knows, maybe eventually it will be a roguelike, or a Metrovania, or some Flappy Birds clone. But for the meantime, I decided that the main character would be an archer. I don't have the core mechanics yet, but for my initial prototype, I have this checklist I wanted to complete. First, I wanted the character to move, of course, run and jump and walk just like any other platformer. Second is a terrain to move on. Third, maybe some sprite animations for aesthetics and some backgrounds. And fourth, he's an archer, so he should be able to fire an arrow. First thing I worked on before anything else is the player sprite itself, along with the run, walk, and jump animations in a sprite. Then I applied this to the Godot engine, and I also made this log so that the player would have something to stand on temporarily, or a fall, whatever he wants to do. I eventually made my player move and jump. The movement kinda looks dodgy, but of course that will be fixed. After that, I proceeded to the most important component of the game. The background. The
Parallax background.
What is a parallax background, you may ask? A parallax background is a background broken up into different layers, and each layer moves at a different speed compared to the others, with the layer closest to the player moving the fastest. In doing so, you will have this effect wherein the farthest elements in the background move the slowest compared to yourself. This phenomena happens in real life, and applying this to the game gives it an extra breath of life. And applying this to the game, it looks like this. After that, I decided to work on the terrain tiles next. Back when I was practicing pixel art, I already made a tile set of my own, and the only thing left for me to do is to apply it to the tile map feature of Godot. Basically, if you were able to set up a tile map, you can essentially draw the map in the editor like a brush, instead of manually placing each block one at a time. As of now, there's a bug on my tile map, but I'll fix that maybe later. And yeah, everything is looking good. I also attached in the walking and jumping animations to the player. Next up was the arrow firing mechanic. First, of course, is making the arrow scene with its corresponding sprite. I made sure that the center of the scene is on the tip of the arrow so that when the object would rotate the object, when the engine would rotate the object, it would look natural. So on my first implementation, I just slapped on random initial velocities on the arrow upon pressing the fire button. But I want the arrow to have varying speeds depending on how long the player holds onto the fire button. I made this by basically having a timer with a maximum time threshold, in which it starts when the player pressed the button, and upon release, the timer will stop. It will return the remaining time, and that time will be converted to a constant that will affect the velocity of the fired projectile. I then had another problem. The fired projectile was actually not following my mouse. So how did I solve it? I used the concept of vectors, unique vectors to be specific. They're used to determine directions, in this case, in a 2D space. So I basically got the unit vector by subtracting the position of the mouse pointer and the position of the player when clicked. Then I multiplied the time constant to that, and there we have the arrow firing mechanic. I eventually want a bar on top of the player's head when he's charging an arrow to provide visual feedback, but for now I just place placeholder numbers. And to finish off, I revamped the movement of the player by having an acceleration instead of having a constant walking speed. I also made the character run faster by holding the shift button, and by pressing the space bar, the player can now double jump. So yeah, that's it for my first devlog. I'm surprised I was able to finish the checklist, but the problem now is deciding on the core mechanics. If you have ideas, perhaps you can comment down below. But yeah, for now, again, thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one.